You know, BGR has had a long history, not only in the city of New Orleans, but really in the region, with pointing us to real issues that we just need to address. I have to say I got my latest letter from BGR on yesterday, my copy, as it relates to the proposed project of the convention center property there. And so I want to continue to thank just BGR for taking deeper dives and asking the right questions so that we collectively can make ultimately the best decisions for the city of New Orleans, for our region, and for the state of Louisiana. We have a new, I would say, constituted sewage and water board. And for a long time, a mayor that is present and truly running the sewage and water board meetings. Make no mistake about it. We have good leadership at the table who are volunteering their time, they're asking the right questions, and who are truly committed to the city of New Orleans and getting it done right. Now, we didn't get here overnight, and we're not going to fix it overnight. Again, let's be real about it. And BGR knows better than I do. It didn't happen overnight. But it does mean that now is the time for a laser focus on not only making the improvements and spending down these billions of dollars that you hear about, it's real. Now, my administration, short period of time, 135 days, I have to say, we've been able to spend really double the amount spent between July of 2016 and May 7, 2018. Over 25% of that $2 billion we've been able to get out of the door. As it relates to revenue, I'll just touch on that a bit. We've been, again, doubling down on our efforts to find the money, fill the gap. And this has led us to, one, hiring up as it relates to the auditors so that we can ensure that we really are collecting all the tax revenue, again, that's generated, and that is for the city of New Orleans. We have a CFO in place. I tell you, that is no nonsense, and it's just changing how we even document the money we spend and the practices and policies and guidelines that are in place. On the EMS side, I was told that EMS isn't in the business of making money. Of course not. We're helping people, saving lives. But we're leaving millions on the table that we're not collecting, whether or not it's from self-payers or even insurance. So I said, no, we're not in the business of making money on the EMS side, but we sure are in the business of collecting revenue that's owed to the city of New Orleans. And didn't you just hear the chief say? We're almost faced with about a gap or a deficit rising about $3 million. So the money that EMS may be leaving on the table can help over here on the NOPD side, looking again as a whole, not a silo. So what we're doing, as we've seen the various silos that exist within city government, we're breaking them down and we're building the levels of communication, but the workflow has been strengthened and we're seeing the difference head on. We've completed a comprehensive study as it relates to the traffic cameras. You know, you heard me say I want those cameras to come down, and they will, in a phased approach, but an approach that is smart, an approach that is prudent, and one that is safety as well, one that's safe. So that speaks to the school zones there. Heard me launch here yesterday, Clean Up NOLA. We have to clean our city up. It goes right along with growing in order to survive. A cleaner city, you know, is a healthier city, and is definitely a safer city. But we have to get the trash out of people's eyes. We have to get trash from accumulating on our streets and in our neighborhoods that have a direct correlation, again, with drainage. Connecting the dots will be very important.
Mayor, you talked about the convention center project.
Yes.
Concerns have been raised by BGR and by a new analysis. Where does that stand for you right now?
Well, where it stands for me right now really is assessing the overall project. And as I've said, I'm not against a hotel being built. That's not my stick. What I am for is, again, how we're using the revenue that's generated right here in the city of New Orleans to truly reinvest in the people in the city of New Orleans. I just don't see right now, on the face of what's been presented, is something that I can support at this time. So I am going to be leaning very heavily on internal analysis that we are doing. The latest even report that I received from BGR just yesterday, asking real questions that are great, and also making and clarifying some points that I think that should be considered. So I am open, but I am not open to the city of New Orleans continuing, to get beat out of revenue that's generated right here. I think that it's time for us to think differently just about that revenue stream. And I am not just talking about the convention center, so don't get me wrong. I'm thinking holistically about the 16 mills and others that are generated, as well as go to various entities that have no built-in accountability, which means no one's elected, but there are boards that make decisions. But we, through communication, I believe, can get there, and I'm open to that. But I am just seeing over and over again areas to where the city doesn't get its fair shake. But we want city government to do so much more. It needs more revenue. That's a fact. And it's revenue that's already being generated. We can't tax ourselves out of it. There's no more on the backs of the people. We get 2% pretty much of what is generated off of that tax base as it relates to hotel motel. We need just a little bit more. But it's, again, collectively and not just with an arrow on the backs of the convention center nor hospitality. It's thinking differently. I think we're capable of thinking differently, and I need you to do that.
All right, Mayor, thank you. Cleveland Powell asks, what is the current status of the municipal FEMA allocation, which is the cost of renovation funds?
Okay. Oh, this is a good one. I love this one. So the municipal auditorium, as you know, is attached to that $2 billion, one of those buckets of billions that we have of FEMA dollars. Right now, we have close to $40 million that has been allocated for the municipal auditorium. Now, it's not money that we've drawn down because the project hasn't moved. You know, you have to have it moving, 65, draw it down. We have a task force that is targeting the municipal auditorium. We have a real opportunity to redevelop it, looking at it becoming even a civic center as it was designed to be from the very beginning. We're looking at, with that civic center, City Hall even being there, where we will restore, of course, the auditorium to be repurposed. And on the new construction skin of the building, it can be demolished, and therefore you can build new and you can go up. It will reactivate not only Armstrong Park, Congo Square, but also the historic buildings that we have on site. It puts City Hall in a very accessible area in the city, right there in the Treme. Transportation options, great. Parking, you name it. So one of the things that we're doing right now is that we have schematics that are being done on the municipal auditorium. We're bringing on I would say, a finance guru that will look at multiple funding streams, because in order to make it work, we have to dig into every source of dollars that we do have at our disposal. And I tell you, looking at it, we can make it work. But what is on the table is the FEMA money, also historic tax credits, also some bond funding that we can put to it, but it can work. And so right now, that is where we are with the municipal auditorium. It is not set in stone. It's something that we are looking at, and something that does have to go to the public through the FEMA 106 review process. I'm hoping within the next month, month and a half, that we're ready to have that conversation with the public and through this process. But it's something that is truly viable for the city of New Orleans, because we do need to move out of City Hall where it is now, meaning the building. And the location of City Hall now is prime real estate, prime real estate. And the best and highest use is not City Hall nor the courts right now. And so it's just, again, another opportunity, turn that map around, be creative of how we can activate and utilize revenue.
Anonymous member of the audience says, in order to grow, we need to learn to live with water. You mentioned the urban water plan. Can you please share the status of implementing that plan?
Mm-hmm. Implementing the plan is going to depend heavily on how we're able to fund that plan. As I mentioned on that bottom line, it's about $4 billion in an uptick. I think Andy goes to what, about $9 billion, anywhere from $4 to $9 billion. A part of it is what I have asked the oil and gas industry that do not want me to file a lawsuit when they ask me what can they do. I said, well, there's an urban water management plan that has been developed with the price tag on it. So a good start is coming to the table with some funding that could help this city protect itself.
Staying with government transparency, Councilman Jason Williams has said that you engaged in a conference call with Sewage and Water Board members that violated open meeting laws.
I don't agree with that. I definitely don't agree with that. But what I will say is I absolutely called my board members. We got information on a Friday that we learned through the media that top directors had received an increase, and that increase was retroactive. Now, this is how we learned. And I needed to make sure I phoned my members and just to touch their pulse, independent calls. But over the course of that weekend, and as changes were being made that I pushed for, I, not the board, has no authority over that, but I, as mayor, absolutely had to take a hard look at that. And once I did, I wanted to inform my board of that. So it was not a meeting. It was information that was shared, because I do believe, and this is one important fact, about me in terms of boards particularly that I oversee. I don't believe in rubber stamps, and I do believe in informing people if I want them to be engaged. And it's respecting their role and their time and their service that they commit to really each and every one of us as they serve on the Sewage and Water Board. And I did not want to recreate, I'm conscious about this, a situation to where board members and things go down that they feel like the president is doing this and they know nothing about it. So it was very intentional only to inform, but nothing was voted on, no action was taken. And as my attorneys have said, we truly rectified any issues that even were valid around that through a public meeting that we had right after.
Those pay raises for those three leaders were huge, $20,000 in 2 cases, $45,000 in 1 case, and yet they say that those pay raises fell in line with a new pay classification system for all Sewage and Water Board members, some people getting raises of 26%.
The pay raises for all Sewage and Water Board employees came through a compensation package that was approved by the Civil Service Commission in 17, we started 18, and also adopted by the New Orleans City Council again at 17. These practices began in 18. And they were for your pump operators, your welders, all of your folks who make Sewage and Water Board run that truly have gotten paid pennies and have kept that agency afloat. It did not have much to do about these employees that were non-classified employees And what I was told was that those raises were aligned with promises that were made by the previous director of the Sewage and Water Board. That's what I was told.
Mayor,
thank you
so much.